one's fixed.
We'll put, yeah. All right, folks, it is 6 p.m. We are going to call to order the City of Aztec City Commission meeting for August 13th, 2019. And if you would all please stand real quick. Commissioner Randall is going to lead us in the invocation, and Mr. George is going to lead us in the pledges tonight.
Pray with me, please. Dear God, thank you for this wonderful day you've blessed us with, and all the many blessings we enjoy here in our fine city, in our state, in our country, and pray continue to bless us and look over us. Ask a special blessing on our children and our teachers as everyone started back to school here in our city, and help protect them and let us have a fun, safe, and learning school year. Be with us up here on the commission and help us to make the best decisions for the city of Aztec, and always help look out for us and help all of our hearts just to want the better good for all of our citizens, Lord. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder?
Here.
Commissioner Seitz?
Here.
Commissioner Randall?
Here.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye, here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry is absent.
Okay. All right, next up we have agenda approval. If there are any items that do not meet the approval for being heard on this evening's agenda, now is the time to remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as given.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to approve tonight's agenda as given.
Second.
Move to approve, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are on to consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion. If any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners, a commissioner may request that the item be heard under items from consent agenda. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of tonight's consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, make
Sir?
a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. We do have a presentation tonight from, or I'm sorry, employee recognition for the electric department.
I'm sorry, we'll move it to the next meeting.
As you wish, sir.
Wow. This is the director who's in charge of our multi-million-dollar
Enterprise fund, yeah.
just forgot.
Forgot, you know.
Uh-oh.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's the truth.
we will take note of that and move it to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Okay. We are at citizens input. Thank you. There's a 3-minute maximum, and Miss Kathleen Sullivan, 805 East Blanco, Trash and Dog Park. Please, are you here? Miss Sullivan?
How far up was here?
You can stand at the podium, please.
I moved to Aztec 5 years ago, and I love this place. I love everything. I love everything. And of course, I'm a conservative farm girl, so I had to accept the mandatory trash when I first moved here. And then I got used to the new trash, and now we're into this recycled trash. And I'm kind of concerned that I have no say in that. I barely put 4 little garbage bags in my big trash, and I really don't buy junk food, and I don't eat fast food, and I really don't have any recycle. And I thought I read your article back in the paper, Ms. Sype, about the concern you had for seniors and fixed income and all. Was that just a statement, or is something kind of in the process for maybe a sliding scale or a senior discount or both or something?
It's not something, it was just a statement that I made when we were having discussions about the recycling and the cost. So there's it was voted, the majority voted that we would do the citywide recycling because citywide is cheaper. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say.
No, I understand. In no offense, it's fine. It happens, and this is the first time you've been to a meeting, I'm guessing, that at least.
Yeah, I think I'll see
So,
more.
and just
Well,
the
that'd be good.
protocol generally is citizen input is your opportunity to voice concerns, but not necessarily meant to be an interaction between the commission and the citizen at this particular, no, it's fine. It's,
No, that was-
I've been in those
That was
seats
my
as well.
fault, too.
We've all been in those seats, and sometimes, it helps to add a little bit, just to kind of clear a little bit of the air, so it's
Just to
not like
clarify.
a hard, fast rule, but we
Yeah.
try and adhere to it the best we can.
Because
But-
I know, like, I've lived in other cities where the city, who had their own, courthouse and all, had a trash contract, and then I lived in the city and I chose to not have any trash pickup, to deal with on my own, going to the dump, or another contract, a trash person and all, but apparently us citizens of the city are required under contract with this company to be part of the city trash contract, correct? I mean, we have no say in saying, I don't want this, or not even like a scale or a senior discount for, I got only 4 little bags, and then when I really had more stuff, I'd go to the one that I guess we're not having anymore there by the library. So there's nothing, no motion, no like I can get 1,000 people to sign and maybe this can go on a voting thing in the future. But now I feel we've got about 8 years now, because not only is it 4, we get to renew them again for another 4, probably. Chances are that's what's gonna happen. I mean, I got no, I have to suck it up.
Should we ask, should we
Again.
have her go talk to?
Yeah, the only, I would recommend that maybe
Talk to Steve.
you come in and make an appointment with, would it be with you, Steve?
Yes.
With the city manager, and he can, for matter, for expediency and to kind of adhere to the citizen input protocol, we try and stick to let him explain maybe the whole kind of dog and pony show, so to speak, for you. So it'll be easier for you to sit down one-on-one and maybe have some of your direct questions answered, so we're not trying to, dance around it here in this particular setting. I'm not trying to put you off, and I appreciate
Oh,
your
no, that's
patience.
fine, because I can only read what's in the newspaper or
Right,
on
I
the
understand.
phone, or, and I liked your comment, but I thought, well, maybe there's something done about it.
Right.
Because, I mean, everything keeps going up. So then I have a dog that came to my place last year, and I decided to keep him instead of take him to the dog pound. And I go to this one over there by American Fence, and I see that you guys are doing some kind of work out by this Riverside Park, I guess the city is, of pipes, irrigation or drainage or something. Is it possible if I could get maybe a bunch of signatures and could put a fence around all that and make it a dog park? How would I go about doing
I
something
handle
like that?
dogs too, give them my cards up front. I do work on this stuff every day.
I guess I'm under 3 minutes and I'm done. Do I talk to you after the meeting to make an
You're
appointment? or
welcome to
what?
stay after the meeting, or my cards up front with phone numbers, or either way you like.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. And that's all we have for citizen input signups tonight. Business items are next. We have business item A, final adoption of ordinance 2019-492, an ordinance amending chapter 22, public property, section 22-513, and incorporating the fee into chapter 16, fee schedule.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that deals with the encroachment fee that was not placed in the fee section of of our code, chapter 16, and this solidifies or
So it was in one chapter,
Codifies
but not
the-
the other, and it's just
correct.
kind of updating it and making sure that it's all tightened up.
into chapter 16,
Yeah.
correct. It's
Just an
$75.
oversight kind of thing, fixing an
Yes.
oversight.
Correct.
That's the way I understand it, and it seems like, okay. Does anybody have any questions or discussion regarding this? Okay, with that said, I would entertain a motion for business item A.
I move to approve final adoption of ordinance 2019-492, an ordinance amending chapter 22, public property, section 22-513, and incorporating the fee into chapter 16 fee schedule.
Second.
All right, we have, whomever, Carla. We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
Commissioner Syke?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, on to business item A, final adoption of ordinance 2019-493, amending Chapter 24, traffic to include using a handheld mobile communication device as a violation, and Section 1-12 to include penalty and fees for such violation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that is exactly what it says. And to date, staff has not received any response from the public in reference to the handheld.
And it looks like it's kind of along the same lines as the speeding ticket sort of fee and court costs. And I think it's like $103 for first offense, counting court costs and the actual ticket itself. And then it climbs up to 3-something for a third offense. Hopefully we
Yes.
won't have that occurrence, but,
Fines would be doubled for violation in an active school zone.
okay. We'll go ahead and open that up for questions or discussion regarding business item B. Anybody have any? I think we kind of covered that pretty well, I think. But hearing none, I would entertain a motion for business item B.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir?
like you may move to approve final adoption of ordinance 2019-493, amending Chapter 24, traffic to include using a handheld mobile communication device as a violation, and Section 1-12 to include penalty and fees for such violation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover?
Aye?
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Syke?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Moving right into business item C. Intent to adopt ordinance 2019-494, amending Chapter 21 solid waste and recyclables. Excuse me.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Commission. That deals with Chapter 21 of our dealing with solid waste and recyclables. Up until recently, there has been no mention of items related to solid waste and recycling. The previous ordinance had no mention of recycling. So this defines classification for recycling fees. Fees are included in Chapter 16. And the ordinance also allows Community Development Department to determine placement of carts and dumpsters for apartment complexes, and they'll work with the property owners and waste management to make sure they're properly placed and not impeding any traffic or anything
Right.
like that. So once again, it just, and included in the packet was the original Chapter 21, and then the updates with all the definitions and mention of recyclable
And we discussed that
efforts.
at the
Yes.
workshop last week, so I think we covered it pretty well. So I will go ahead and open up business item C to any questions or discussion. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for business item C.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the intent to adopt ordinance 2019-494, amending Chapter 21 solid waste and recyclables.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover?
Aye.
Commissioner Syke?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
On to item D, San Juan County Household Hazardous Waste Program.
Mr. Mayor, that deals with the hazardous waste program that the county and the city of Farmington has cost shared in over the past few years. One collection point has been the county complex here in Aztec. The other has been San Juan College over in Farmington. This year, Farmington has moved to offer their residents a curbside pickup of hazardous waste at an additional fee of, I believe it's 65 cents that will be charged.
That's billed monthly.
Billed monthly.
Through
yeah,
their
the
trash.
waste management
Okay.
program. So what the county has approached us with is they need to know whether the city of Aztec would like to partner or pay for the cost for our residents, which is going to be $65 per vehicle that goes to the site. The site is going to be relocated over to McGee Park. So the county has decided they can't bear all the cost of the waste collection or the hazardous waste collection. So once again, they've just asked Aztec whether we want to participate or not.
Okay.
Also included in the staff summaries are the number of Aztec residents that have, by their count, participated in the event when it was held here in Aztec. And it varies.
Right.
So cost for the city could range anywhere from $1,950 to $3,700 some odd. Once again, it would be on the number of participants from the city of Aztec that used that during the day. It's scheduled for September 21st. In talking to the county manager, they're really not going to be equipped to collect at the gate for a city of Aztec resident that goes over there. So we would be invoiced for the amount at a later date once the collection event was over.
So, and I, just more for the folks that are here, any interested parties that are here at the meeting, or maybe watching the live stream, or that watch it tomorrow, we've kind of workshopped this, and we had this conversation, I think it was last week, right? And this amount, whatever it may be, whether it be one car or 1,000 cars, was not budgeted.
Correct.
So we would have to, find overages and surplus, which is already been kind of scrubbed and found for other budget items. So we don't have it budgeted, and to be clear, the city would be paying for, so for example, if everybody in this room took a single, and I don't want to understate it and suggest that people are going to bring like a can of spray paint, but hypothetically, it could be a single can of spray paint or some turpentine or something. Maybe it's been sitting in your garage for a while and you just want to get rid of it. And you want to do the right thing, so you don't dump it in the yard or you don't throw it in your trash can. However, that's still going to be $65, regardless of, it's per vehicle, not per pounds or size of load. Is that a true statement as well, as far as you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Now, yeah, we could work on partnering and sharing and things like that, but I don't imagine, I don't know. And with the kind of the short time frame, it would take some coordination. We'd have to get some word out, and that's already challenging for even bigger things that we tackle, let alone things that aren't really on people's minds until they're ready to get rid of them. Like, you're literally cleaning out your garage, and I want to get rid of this stuff right now. So do we have anything in place right now to be able to dispose of hazardous waste currently?
Not with our solid waste provider currently, but they do offer that service. But that would be an additional cost to the residents if we were to add that, and we'd have to talk to Waste Management about what the cost would be.
So I guess, so if I wanted to do something tomorrow and we didn't opt into this and we didn't want to pay the money, find a way to pay the money, is there something, and you might be able to answer this, I don't know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, or maybe you would know, that I could contact them individually and say, I have a garage full of old paint that I don't want to just throw it in the dumpster over by the library, I want you to come and pick it up. Is that something that we can individually set up, or is that something we have to do as a city, kind of like Farmington is doing?
It kind of have to be set up as a city.
Okay.
And one of the advantages to that is, of course, the resident wouldn't have to transport their hazardous waste anywhere. Fluorescent light bulbs is a good one that they would pick up at your door service. So you don't want a fluorescent bulb breaking in the back and then you release the mercury. It's all for naught.
Right.
So it's a phone number you call or a website you go to. They schedule it, they send you packing material like the light bulbs, they send you a case, put the light bulbs in there, schedule your pickup, just put it out your door and just go back and get it out.
But currently, we don't have that.
Currently, we don't.
Okay. So it'd be something we'd have to
Correct. Negotiate.
figure out and negotiate and decide if that's what we want to adopt.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's the only question. Those are kind of I kind of thought I knew the answers to those, but I just wanted to kind of have that out for general discussion for everybody here. Does anybody else have any discussion or
Mr. Mayor.
questions? Because
I do, actually. One of the things, I wasn't able to attend workshop last week because I was up in the mountains. But I have a problem with it being moved to McKee Park. I don't know what kind of what kind of results we're gonna get with people hauling everything over to McGee Park.
And that was one of the things we talked about, that we thought even the numbers would go down even more. But my sticking point is that we haven't budgeted it, and we're already pretty razor-thin margins on our budget. And I don't anticipate, 100 cars going, but if they did, we'd be on the hook for, $6,500.
Right.
And that's not nothing, So I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that we don't opt into this, just because of that fact. And that we have another opportunity to at least have that conversation with Waste Management, and then we can decide if that's the route we want to go or not. Dependent, obviously, it's going to likely be cost-driven.
Right. And I think with the move to McGee Park for the county, it's more central to most of the county residents. They, to staff it, not wanting to do two locations, that's a bigger parking lot area, and helps cut down on manpower for the county, just having one location. So that was their thinking on that.
Mr. George, did you have something to add?
Kid George, 706 French Drive. Say, this program that the county's ran for, at least 20 years, I have participated, I'm going to say 15 of the 20 years that they're there. I have taken waste oil, batteries, light bulbs, you name it, things around the house that just collect because you don't want to just throw it in the trash. And for us to bail on this would be a disservice to the citizens. Sherry can tell you, Austin can probably tell you, out there on Blanco years ago, where the old dump was, it was just, that's what it was a pile of batteries, it was wash machines, it was, you name it. And if we get rid of this service, those kind of things are gonna happen again. Mark my word, it will. I would highly suggest to the commission that we budget $5,000 this year for it. We'll find the money, see what happens. I'll even work with the manager, and on that weekend that they do that, I'll bring a couple guys in, we'll put the stuff in city trucks, take it over there. That way we're paying for 1 or 2 trucks and not 50.
Right.
That was a thought that I had.
And I'm not opposed to that at all, but is that something that we can, so that kind of leaves us in a little bit of a gray zone and a kind of a no man's land here currently, because it's a month away.
Right, September 21st.
And there would be a bit of logistics involved, and then we would be looking at, the employees' hours and things like that. I'm not opposed to it, I just feel like maybe it's a little bit tight as far as time constraints, et cetera.
Yeah, the county didn't do us any favors by bringing this right to us right now.
And let's,
Exactly right.
the scenario that, okay, I know that we're still doing this as a resident. I wasn't here, I don't watch the YouTube thing, I don't really pay that much attention. I just know that it's coming around, and I see something in the paper, or I hear something on the radio, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a couple cans of paint. And then we have a couple handfuls of those folks go. And I mean, and again, I'm a little torn on it because it may turn into a little bit of nothing as far as funds, but it could, I'm looking at the worst case scenario that we could really get hit with something that we just didn't plan on doing and didn't budget for. And and then we can also say, well, we scraped up the money for that, And there are services out there. There's places to dispose of batteries. There's places to dispose of oil. I take oil if I ever have any, which isn't common anymore, but when I used to service my own vehicles, when I was a little younger, I would take it to Advance or Napa, and they had a big barrel in the back, they would dump it for me. And I guess where I'm going with that, and the same thing with batteries, is that the folks that are that conscious about it are gonna find the avenues to do it if we take this out. And I could be wrong, it's just my opinion and just, my own thoughts here, is that if somebody's willing to throw something out in the ditch somewhere or out in the arroyo somewhere, they're gonna do it anyway.
Well, and I have to respectfully disagree with that. The 20 years that I've been here, we have worked hard about cleaning up the town. and getting these people to think. That's why we started the convenience center, is because there was so much garbage being thrown just outside the city limits. Every arroyo, every ditch had trash in it. And once we opened the convenience center, once Josh Ray, our previous city manager, set that dumpster out on Blanco, that stuff almost came to a total halt. The only thing that you see out there now is some tree branches. And part of it, the reason it worked is because countywide, we made a conscious effort to clean this up. And what the county was doing with the e-waste and the batteries and all that was a great service. And I just hope that you guys will continue it at least another year to see what we can do to work this out.
Okay. So I don't know what you guys think, but I was just thinking that maybe, and that we're just talking here, we haven't decided anything, is that we perhaps consider tabling it till next meeting, and if we can get some details as far as, working out the details of if that's the route, the direction that we want to go, is consider having a local pickup spot, because I just don't want to get into that. And again, it may not matter what I think. You guys might have a different opinion. But if and these are just my thoughts, is that if we can work that out with a little bit of confidence, kind of thing, that it's going to come together, and we can get the personnel and we can get the vehicles and the collection point in town, and put that out to folks, that we do it that way.
We can certainly table it and address it next week at the special commission meeting. I can reach out to Mike, Stark, the county manager, tomorrow.
And perhaps say, look, we got 2 or 3 vehicles coming from Aztec,
Sure.
or maybe 2 that make a couple of trips, sort of thing, if we have response that's, that fills them up. And don't take, anybody else,
Right. Well,
That's the issue, though, is if you say don't take anyone else, because if we don't partner at all,
Right.
then all the people that do show up from Aztec, like you said, that don't watch the feed,
Right,
like,
and that's,
they're going to show up and they're going to say, oh, sorry, you're from Aztec.
you
The
can't.
commission said that they don't want to pay for you trash. Please turn around.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's what it'll do, too.
I mean,
Yeah,
65
I understand
bucks
that too,
and
you're right.
I'm fine with moving forward with it. Just
So what were the numbers from last year? I'm sorry. If you could-
51
Spring-
51
the
last
spring was-
year.
Well, spring of 19.
spring. Yeah.
And this spring was, but that's when they were right here in town, right?
correct.
Right.
So we're anticipating maybe fewer?
There's got to be fewer. It's
Well,
just right down the road.
Thinking about going to McGee Park, that might
Right.
hinder some.
Discourage.
Right, from making the trip over there.
Okay.
Ken said we could find the money.
But by doing, maybe we do it for the
Ken
fall,
said
for
we can
this
find the
cleanup,
money,
then have a chance to discuss it with Waste Management.
right? I mean, I'm kind of like a coin flip on that one.
One of my concerns with having city crews do it is we don't know what type of hazardous waste might come in that we're transporting.
And then they have to handle it, and
And-
what if something leaks
correct.
or dumps over, or,
And, back to what Ken said, I mean, we were handling it, picking it up from the Arroyo up Blanco, so.
okay.
But those are just some things that jump out to my mind is what type hazardous waste might come in that we're collecting.
Okay. Right, that's a good point.
Well,
too.
certain things are already excluded, aren't they?
I haven't seen the list, but I'm sure some are. I mean,
I
no
believe there are
nuclear
some
stuff
things that
maybe.
Okay, well, I
No
mean,
nuclear waste.
Yeah, no nuclear waste are allowed.
So,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
yes,
um,
ma'am.
When I first read this, and my thought was kind of along the same line as Ken's about maybe instead of having each, like you said, one car go out there for $65 and take 1 can of paint, or a couple, and then be charged $65, was maybe try to have some kind of a collection point and just take a couple of vehicles out there. That was my first thought with it, because I think it is a good service, and I think we have seen some of the areas that were so bad about dumping stuff that have cleaned up, so
Okay.
I'm kind of leaning towards maybe try to do it for this fall, because it
Okay.
is short notice, and then
Yeah,
maybe we can revisit it and figure
Right.
out a better way to do it.
Well, it just says vehicle, so let's use a dump truck. That was just one vehicle. You fill it up as full as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bigger than a bed of a truck. If they don't specify it.
I don't know if they do.
But, I mean,
or
even
not,
if
Joe.
we do the city, that's great if we can,
It's all county.
and I feel like maybe that's
And
some,
that's just the whole point. Is to gotta realize that I can see why the county's doing that,
Mhm.
because Farmington
It's
stepping away
bad.
from, Farmington was paying a large portion of that.
Right.
To dispose of that. Now without them there, I can see where there's a $65 charge issue for folks in Aztec, because they still gotta pay for that regardless, whether it's 1 or 10.
Right.
I would be so ticked off to drive all the way out there
Yeah,
to
I
dump
mean,
it.
that's
I
a
heard
good
on the
point,
radio,
too.
like you said, and then say,
Yeah,
oh,
that's a
let me
good
see your
point, too.
license. Oh, you're from
Right.
Aztec. Oh, you in city limits? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a very good
turn
point.
around. So
Right.
you waited in line all afternoon.
So-
you can't dump your stuff here.
So maybe we could
We'll give them the
kick around some ideas, kick around some ideas like that to perhaps consider some folks at the collection point itself, where we could kind of try and consolidate, but not like break your neck doing it kind of thing. If it works out, it works out. Otherwise, we can just, like Ken said, we can find the money in his budget somewhere and pay for it, because he's a very strong advocate for this, and I appreciate that. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't want to get caught with a huge bill that we weren't anticipating.
Right.
I think it's a great service.
Open-ended.
Yeah.
Like I said, there could be 100 people show up, and that'd be.
And that
great.
$65 fee has been that way, I think, for, I don't know how long the contract was between the county and Farmington, but the $65 fee has been renegotiated to be the fee for this year.
Okay.
I can't tell you that last year, here, when we had it here at the county building, that they had people looking in your car and tell you had just a can of paint, they'd take it and put it in somebody else's back of their truck.
Okay.
And then, because they.
So they're,
In line.
yeah, they're not like trying to,
So they-
right.
so they-
So they're kind of tuned into that as well.
You get the traffic
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Well, that helps
There you go.
considerably,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective,
Yeah.
as far as the open-endedness, like Austin said about it. So, okay. Does anybody have any other discussion or any points they want to bring up about it?
I think we can look at it over in the coming year and see,
Right.
and explore alternatives, but it's
yeah.
such a short period of time right now.
Right, I agree. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, I would entertain a motion for business item D.
Mayor, move to approve the City of Aztec partnering with San Juan County to provide hazardous waste collection September 21st, 2019 for the City of Aztec residents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, please call the roll.
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Sight?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
And now to our final business item E, FY20 funding application, Aztec Vintage Social / Steamers and Dreamers.
I'm not the representative. I don't know where the representative is, so this may be something that needs to be tabled until the next meeting.
She had called and asked me to step in
Oh,
Okay,
just before the meeting.
okay. Thank you.
So I'll do what I can. I can
Understood.
speak about the Aztec Vintage Social because the Visitor Center, the Tourism Marketing Office, is coordinating different entities to create this event on September 21st. It's going to include the antique truck show down at Riverside, and then Steamers and Dreamers is trying to get their normally scheduled event in February moved to the fall, and so it was a time for her to try to make this transition and combine it with what's happening with the antique truck show. There's also going to be a ATOS 5K run down at the Riverside Park. With her event here, she'll be moving it outside, so then she can maybe get more people to attend the event rather than the small place at the senior center. But it's an attempt to try to do it at a different time of year and get a greater response than the winter time.
And to partner it with other,
And partner with other
because that may
entities
not
to
be
make
your
it
cup of
much
tea, but the
bigger.
truck show might, and then you
Yeah.
might walk in and see that and be like, oh, this is kind of
Exactly,
cool,
yeah.
but on its own, you may not be drawn to
And,
that.
and, you know, and we're hoping we're going to really hammer it and promote it much like we do Aztec Sparkles, so that it becomes a big thing, so that we can do it every year come September.
Okay.
In terms of the funding that she's requesting here, this is to help her pay for the cost of the bands and security. I think it's in the application there where she
Right.
spells out the cost of each thing.
All right.
Okay.
And the minimum amount that she'd in would be if she only needed 2 police officers to be security, but if she's required to have 4, then that's the higher amount she was requesting, was to offset the cost of security.
Okay, and there's no, well, I don't know that you know the answer to this, but is there any discussion of overlap for security and things like that, to cover the entire venue? Is it
No,
gonna be laid out
the
that
only
way?
reason she's needs the security in Minium Park is because there's going to be alcohol served.
Okay,
If there wasn't alcohol served, there wouldn't be the need for the security.
okay. So that's unique to this part of the
Mhm.
event, of the weekend?
Yeah,
is the steamers.
because basically, you know, Parks and Rec's going to have to fence it off, much like they did at the other events. They've had like Blues and Brews, they had to fence off the area where the alcohol
Like
has
the
to be
beer garden
retained.
sort of thing,
And
yeah.
so she's got Wines of the San Juan, who will be the servers.
I got a question, Ed. Who does the security?
Aztec Police Department.
So the funding goes to the Aztec Police Department, right? I mean,
Part of it,
Okay, part
the
of it,
part
right.
that was for security would be going to
security is
Aztec,
going
and
to
then
this, okay.
the
I just
other
wanted
amounts
to
would be
kinda-
to cover the bands that she's got lined up to play.
Gotcha, thank you.
So this is going, so this will be what, the fourth year, I believe?
It's the fourth year, but the fifth event.
The fifth event, because we
it'll
had
be
one in
in
earlier in
February,
the-
so you've got
this
two
year.
events this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if the turnout is better or as good as, than it was in February, then that's the time slot that the Steamers and Dreamers will choose in the future. So then next year it would be in September rather than February.
Okay. Does anybody, yes, ma'am?
During one of the EDAB meetings, it's been several months ago, there was a discussion about moving this event
Mhm.
and trying to tie it in with the other ones in order to kind of boost all the events.
Yeah.
To help with that, so, and, there wasn't a vote taken or anything, but the consensus at the EDAB meeting was that it might be a good move for the, Dreamers and Steamers to, Steamers and Dreamers, did I get it?
The Steamers and Dreamers, yeah.
Steamers and Dreamers, to partner with the other events that were going on and try to do better. The weather's always iffy in February, and I think that was a big thing this year. We had some really bad weather the
Yep.
weekend that it was scheduled, so I think
And,
this-
yeah, and for events like that, it's just a hard turnout,
For- and it's
even if
just
it
a
is
single-
indoors, yeah.
for just a single event.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it might be, my personal opinion is, I think it might be a good thing for us to help support this move, to help them maybe move the date and combine with these others and possibly draw more people all together.
If I could, I'm not opposed to, to trying to diversify the events that we have. My concern is that, which with a couple of these other things tonight, is it's pretty short notice. And we don't have any data, saying about any kind of numbers and what may be anticipated. And, I mean, like I said, I'm not opposed to it, but I just think it's being kind of thrown together relatively fast, and we're being put in a position, in my opinion, kind of an untenable position to decide kind of last minute as to whether we're going to support this or not. So we're kind of put in a, I don't want to say a no-win situation, but it's definitely not the ideal situation for us to be put on the spot to make this decision without any kind of presentation. I've never been to it, so I don't know. I don't know if it's something, and I'm not in whatever. It doesn't have to be my cup of tea. It could be, whatever. But that does concern me, is that it's just kind of like, oh, well, that the planning isn't in place or hasn't been in place, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I could be off base on this, but it feels like the planning the due diligence wasn't really done, and now we're in a spot to where we have to kind of, I don't want to say bail out, but maybe kind of emergency supplement this to help it go off, and I don't want to have that hung around our neck if it does poorly. Well, had it not, had you guys funded us, we would have done this or that, or vice versa, that if it kind of falls flat because of maybe the other planning has been similar to this, that we've kind of squandered a couple $1,000s or more for the event. that we could use, because
I
we
didn't-
are.
Yeah, I didn't attend past one in February. My understanding was about the same, a little bit more than it was the year before. Her first year probably was her biggest one because it was a new event and it actually got a lot more local support. But the second and third year, you actually had more people outside this community that were attending, because she has connections up in Colorado and in Albuquerque where there are some large groupings of steamers and dreamers, and so she's outreaching for that as well. The event here is going to be, I would say, quite, well, much more differently set up than it was in the senior center, because it's going to be outdoors. She's always had wine served anyways, but she's going to have more bands, live bands, than she's had in the past. And then they also plan to do different contests. And this year, they're going to actually do a dance contest, not just a costume contest, whereas the past, they only had a costume contest. Also, too, with the tourism office, we started bringing these people together to discuss what we could do to connect all the events together. We started this back at the end of June. End of May, we started having monthly meetings to see if we could get the truck peoples on board and other entities. And we had some that said no, they didn't want to do something, and then we had others that said they would do like ATOS, 5K runs, stuff like that. So we were able to, over a 2-month period, finally get enough people together to make a much larger event and then brand it. And so I think it could be more successful because you got a lot more going on that weekend. And then there's going to be, in terms of steamers and dreamers stuff, people are into the steam pipe. You're going to have a lot more out-of-town visitors than our locals participating.
And I think that's like, and you and I have talked about this, and I've talked to Will Ann, and I think we've all had this conversation in some form or another, the idea of kind of bundling things together, a little something for everybody, but none of it may not all be your deal,
Right.
but you can find something, and if you bring your kids or you bring your family or your significant other, one might be into one thing, one might be into the trucks, or vice versa. And I want to encourage that kind of thought and those kinds of things to make it more of a festival sort of atmosphere, to where there's a little something for everybody. So please don't take this as negative towards steamers and dreamers. I just wish we'd kind of been involved a little bit earlier as far as this idea of funding and knowing more about it, I guess, how it's going to go off.
With it being held outdoors too, it's probably going to get more visual.
Sure, yeah.
From the community, so you might get a lot more people just being curious and
folks that see it wanna
participating
just drop in.
than had they
Yeah.
known, because in the past, when it was sheltered, you didn't.
Right, in
unless
February,
you
right.
got an announcement, you didn't know it was going on. We're hoping with it being outdoors, then it would
Yeah.
get more of a visual thing where people will get more
Or
interested.
accidental exposure, because you come to see the trucks and you see this.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's great. What do you guys think? You want to add some more, or add another question?
I just comment that I know it took time to get all the groups together and find out who was actually gonna
Who's
join
gonna
in and
come
who
through and
wasn't.
actually be there
Right,
instead of
so I
just-
think that's part of the reason for the later
Okay.
notice. It may not be the total reason, but I think it's part of the reason, because I know it takes time to get everybody on board or not, and they have to have their board meetings and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
So-
when you got two entities that deal in the same thing, then they don't get along well, they don't want to participate together.
They don't play well together.
Yeah, so.
But I know that it does, I agree with Ed, I think it does bring in some people from outside, some
Which I
outside
think
people,
is-
which is a
which is
good
what we're
thing,
looking
what
for,
what
yeah.
we're trying to do.
Folks coming in from out of
So,
town.
I mean,
to-
I'm not saying that we should do funding every year for it, but I think maybe this year with it trying to move time slots and stuff, it might help.
Well, that's the big
We
positive
can give them a
thing.
little boost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big positive conversation that came out of Lodgers Tax, because they gave her some money
Yeah.
for it too, is it draws people a lot more from out of town. When she did her presentation and she went to more detail about, people that she has that come in, like you said, her network and connections, but I mean, Lodgers Tax was on board, similar to, like you said, EDAB. And the big thing that makes it a lot more important for me now is how they didn't change the name, but added the Aztec Vintage Social. It is just more of a Aztec event altogether. It's not just the steamers and dreamers.
Right.
which,
Yeah, right.
I don't know, just it's bringing everything together, and I think it's great. And like you say, I know we say this every year, but it's like, if we try to get them off going. They just need to remember next year, well, hey, we helped you out, get started. Let's just,
What was the return?
maybe not so much next year, and just have her, and we need to really be sticklers in the same thing, conversations we're having in lodger's tax as far as making the people that that we give money to,
Come back.
just like, get the information back on how it worked, how it went, what did we get out of it. So
I think that's good.
I'm sure, and we just need to hold them accountable and tell them to report back, and so we know for next year if they do want some more funds,
Okay.
should we do it or not.
Yeah.
And just before I'm sorry, go ahead.
One more
Mark.
quick question, a comment, actually. I know when I first moved to Aztec 30-some-odd years ago, there was a number of events that happened in the city. There was Fiesta Days, there was Founder's Day, there was other things that happened, Veterans Day. But nowadays, we don't seem to have many of those events left. People burn out, move on, whatever. But this would be a great way to kind of rekindle some of that community.
And I don't want to discourage people from trying to take the lead and get involved in different events. So, I think we should, I personally think we should fund to a certain level. Just before anybody makes a motion, I would just keep in mind that we do have limited funds, and there will be other groups throughout the year because we're just starting. We're really basically a month into the FY. So we've already had 2 pretty big obligations of our discretionary funds. So I would just ask that we keep that in mind, and not that you need reminded, but it is one of those things that we see some of these things, we get excited about them, and maybe we overspend or whatever. So yeah, what do you guys think as far as anybody have an amount in mind? And if someone could remind me, I don't want to scroll through this whole thing.
37 was with the maximum amount,
I'm fine giving the total.
and the minimum amount was 29, and that was,
The
like I
difference
said,
was
the
because
difference
of
was
two different-
if she needed
yeah.
2 or 4 security, depending on, right?
Mhm.
The 2 or 4 security.
Yeah, that's why the
officers.
So how do
difference.
So-
how can we determine that?
You don't, it's still up to
Yeah.
y'all to determine what
Yeah,
amount.
total
and
amount is
then
3,700.
you just have to-
29.
Oh, I see.
She has to just
So it's,
take what you offer,
Okay.
or what you reward.
Basically,
So-
$800 difference.
And start putting our officers at work, so.
So, I'm fine with doing the 37 for this year, but like I said, I agree with Austin. I think we need to start having people that we do the funds for, make sure that
Yeah.
they come back and give us a report.
I would probably, if it were me, I would probably go a little less, but it's not like a huge sticking point for me personally. So, I feel like I'll go with, where we can get some consensus, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
only $800 difference.
Okay,
That's really
and
not-
if you guys are comfortable with that, I'm also comfortable with that, so I will follow you all. So with that, I think we're ready to close discussion. Thank you, Ed, I appreciate the information. Pretty good for not being fully read into it. Thank you very much. So with that said, I would entertain a motion for business item E.
Mayor, I move to approve funding to Rain Dance Association Incorporated on behalf of Steamers and Dreamers in the amount of $3,700.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder?
Aye?
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Booth?
Aye.
Commissioner Sykes?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Now, to the item we've all been waiting for.
Wait.
The quasi judicial hearing for land use. And as is customary, I have a fairly involved script to read, so please bear with me. And if I could, and just before we get started, if anybody is here to be an interested party, any of the staff members, etc., witnesses, etc., please make sure that you have signed up at the front desk so we can capture this, because once we get started and we swear in, we're not going to add people just because they forgot to sign up, okay? So with that said, I'm going to assume there isn't anybody else that needs to sign up. Going once. Sold. Okay. Thank you. All right. So here we go. The following hearing procedure is for all hearings on tonight's agenda. A land use hearing registration form is located on the clerk's table for those who wish to receive a copy of the results from this hearing. You must provide your full name and current mailing address in order to receive a copy of the land use hearing order. If you wish to testify and provide comment on the matter at issue, you must register with the clerk on the land use hearing registration form and be sworn in with staff, the applicant, identified parties, witnesses, and interested persons. The meeting tonight will be conducted under procedures mandated by the New Mexico Court of Appeals in Battershell v. City of Albuquerque, which are intended to protect the due process rights of all parties. Under this ruling, the following procedures will apply. Parties to the meeting will be identified, as will any witnesses. The parties may wish to give testimony, as well as any interested persons wishing to testify and provide comment. City staff has a responsibility to assist the commission in fully developing the meeting record and may testify. All persons offering testimony will be sworn in by the clerk, mayor, or city attorney who are authorized to administer oaths. All persons offering testimony will be subject to cross-examination by commission, city staff, and the parties to the hearing. Testimony will be limited to the relevant matter being heard. Okay, so for the procedure, the item to be decided at tonight's public hearing is OG 19-02 Hillcorp Incorporated recompletion, quote-unquote, hydraulic fracturing of the Brewington Gascom C number 1R gas well. Testimony will be limited by the mayor. Identification of parties. For the purpose of this meeting, applicants are defined as Hillcorp Incorporated. Other persons may be designated by the commission as parties if they can show to the satisfaction of the commission that they have an immediate pecuniary or direct interest in the outcome of the meeting. Witnesses are those persons designated by parties to present testimony on their behalf. Interested persons are those persons interested in the case but not identified as either a party by commission or a witness by any party. We all tracking so far? Excuse me. Aside from the applicants and city staff, are there any persons who wish to be identified as a party to this or these items? Hearing and seeing none. So we don't have to do that part. Please review the land use hearing registration form provided. You will accept this or these persons as a party. That's not applicable. I apologize. Okay. So we are going to move into the land use hearing of the part of this meeting. Is there a challenge to the jurisdiction of the City of Aztec Commissioners to hear any of the hearings on tonight's agenda? Hearing none. Are there any conflicts of interest or personal biases to be declared by a commission member?
No.
No. Have there been any ex parte contacts regarding the upcoming matters that a commission member needs to declare?
No.
No. Okay. Will staff, the applicants, parties identified by commission, all witnesses, and interested persons wishing to testify regarding OG 19-02 Hillcorp Incorporated recompletion hydraulic fracturing of the Brewington Gascom C number 1R gas well, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of perjury? Please be seated. Okay, testimony and evidence must be directed toward this particular hearing for 19-02 Hillcorp Incorporated recompletion hydraulic fracturing of the Brewington Gascom C 1R gas well, any applicable federal, state, or municipal laws or regulations or criteria which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision, failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford us and other interested persons an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal on that issue. Any party as identified by the commission may request a continuance of this hearing if able to provide documentation or evidence in support or opposition of the application in addition to what was available at the time of the notice this hearing was provided. This seems much longer than normal. I'm just saying. I don't remember this from the last time, but I'm assuming there's a good reason for it. In the conduct of land use hearings, unless there is a continuance, if a participant so requests before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, the record shall remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing. So the order of presentations. 1, staff will summarize the staff report to the extent necessary to enable those to present to understand the issues before the commissioners. The commission members may ask questions of staff. Cross-examination by applicant and parties. 2, the applicant to include their witness or witnesses have up to 15 minutes. The commission members may ask questions of the applicant, and cross-examination by staff and parties Witnesses may be cross-examined, but do not have the authority to cross-examine. Parties, to include their witnesses, have up to 10 minutes each. The commission members, again, may ask questions of the parties, cross-examination by staff and the applicant. Witnesses may be cross-examined, but do not have the authority to cross-examine. And then interested persons have up to 5 minutes each. The commission members may ask questions of interested persons, and then cross-examination by staff, applicant, and parties. However, interested persons may be cross-examined but do not have the authority to cross-examine. And then the hearing will be closed to all testimony, and the commission may discuss the issue amongst themselves, and then will make a decision and issue findings of fact and conclusions of law, move into closed session pursuant to New Mexico Statute 10.151H1, the Open Meetings Act exception, continue the public hearing until a specified time, or take the matter under advisement and announce their recommendation at a specified time. And that is it for that. So with that said, I think we're ready to move into our land use hearing. And the order of presentations will start with staff.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. I apologize for that long hearing process. So Hillcorp has submitted the oil and gas 1902 recompletion of hydraulic fracturing of Brewington Gascom C number 1R. It is located in the northwest of the northwest section 21, Township 30 North, Range 11 West, 770 foot, from the north line, 490 feet from the west line in the city of Aztec in San Juan County, New Mexico. They lease the land from Fifield. It's 160 acres, the parcel is, and it sits on about 0.28 acres. It's currently screened and gated, and what they'll do is they'll go ahead and remove that, recomplete it, and then put it all back in. As provided in the staff summary by Stephen, it indicated that the well location is approximately 903 feet from the nearest commercial structure and 1,011 feet from the nearest residential dwelling unit. Access to the location is utilized existing through the easement on Pepsi Way. The conditions he is requesting: the development must adhere to all of the processes and performance measures described in submitted documents, including the surface use plan of operations and surface reclamation plan, as well as all other applicable regulations by federal, state, and local jurisdictions. The applicant needs to notify the Community Development Department before construction, drilling, and recompletion for the said well commences. The applicant needs to reinstall the fence surrounding the well and the screening slats once recompletion is concluded pursuant to the application. The applicant needs to adhere to the submitted noise mitigation plan. Additionally, on-site construction and drilling operation hours need to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and limited to Monday through Friday because of the sensitivity of residential units within the 1,011 feet from the well pad and the 2,500 feet from the presidential inn suites. The department recommends that you approve this application, and that is all I have.
Okay.
I stand for any questions.
Okay, any commission members have any questions of Ms. Martinez?
I don't.
I don't have any.
I don't either.
Okay.
Does the applicant wish to cross-examine our staff member? No. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Next, we can move to the applicants to include their witnesses. You have up to 15 minutes each.
Good evening.
evening.
Thanks for having us. My name is Tom Dugan, and I'm outside counsel for the applicant Hillcorp, and I have with me again Mr. Virgil Chavez, who you may remember from the last hearing. Mr. Chavez previously worked for ConocoPhillips in the San Juan Basin, so he's knowledgeable. He currently lives in Houston, and he reports that it is cool in Aztec.
Very nice.
Two minor sort of Scrivener comments from the staff report. Where it says action requested, it says section 26 and it's section 21. And I just wanted to make sure that if we are approved, that it's on the right lands. And the second correction is the pad, the existing pad, which is on a 160-acre parcel. The pad itself is 2 acres, not 0.2 acres.
Okay, okay.
But the salient point is that
Right.
the existing pad is going to stay the way it's been for 13 and a half years when this well was first drilled by Hillcorp's predecessor, XTO Energy. The oil and gas lease underlying this well was executed in 1946. It's a long-standing lease. And the existing well, the current well, is producing from the Dakota Formation, similar to our last application. And the Dakota Formation's about 7,000 feet down. And the idea is to move up to the Mesa Verde Formation, roughly around 5,000 feet down. So you'd have gas production coming from 2 formations instead of 1. If you have technical operational questions, Mr. Chavez will address them. I just wanted to highlight a few of the aspects of this recompletion application. Similar to our last application, the nearest house is fairly far away, 903 feet, and the existing routes for ingress and egress will be used. There'll be no additional roads cut or land disturbance. The existing fence and screening, anything that needs to be taken down for the operations will be reinstalled afterwards. So these kind of applications aren't always a win-win, but I think this one, like the last one, is fairly innocuous in the oil and gas world. Not much new happens in terms of impacts. There's a couple of days of work, but thereafter, looking at the site will be the same. You won't know, a passerby wouldn't know that a new formation has been produced. And the additional production is good for everyone. The royalty owners will get more royalty, governments will get more taxes, and Hillcorp and its owners will hopefully make more profit. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that?
Okay. All right. Do any of the commission members have any questions of Mr. Dugan and/or Mr. Chavez?
No.
No.
I don't.
Okay, I don't as well. Do any of the staff wish to cross-examine Mr. Dugan or Mr. Chavez? Okay. I don't have any questions. It seems pretty straightforward. Thank you for coming. So, hearing that, I am going to go ahead and close the hearing to testimony and entertain a motion. And I was flipping through. I didn't want anybody to think I wasn't listening to what you were saying. I just wanted to make sure that the motion that was here didn't speak to those particularities that had to be fixed. So I just wanted to make sure that when we did the motion, but it doesn't apply here. So,
That's, Mr. Mayor, that's what I was going to ask our city attorney, if we needed to correct the section and the...
I think as long as their application is correct, and
Uh-huh.
then
And
our
it is.
motion is approving their application, I think
Then
we're
we're good. Okay, so we can just leave the motion as it is.
right.
Just wanted to make
Okay.
sure about that.
So we are closed to testimony. Hearing no other questions or comments, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Parties?
I'm sorry?
Were there any parties?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for checking me on that. Okay,
So you ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Oil and Gas 19-02, a gas well named Brewington Gascom C, number 1R gas well, submitted by Ben Mitchell on behalf of Hillcore Energy Company with staff's recommended conditions 1 through 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
Commissioner Sykes?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, folks. I think, and I'm like all the way at the bottom of my scrolled agenda, so I think we're at department head reports are next. Do we have any department heads? Seeing none, I will open it up to Mr. Mueller. Would you like to give a report?
Just real quick, Mayor, I want to remind everybody that we've got a special meeting once again scheduled for next Tuesday. Then coming up at the end of August, we have the New Mexico Municipal League Annual Conference that I believe everybody that's planning to attend has submitted paperwork, or Carla has, so that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Unsicker?
I do not have a report.
Mr. Lewis? Commissioner Lewis, I'm sorry.
No real report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Randall?
Only thing I have is just kind of a heads up for you guys. I will be gone for the first meeting in September. I'll be gone September 10th, which is that
Okay.
second Tuesday of September. Just kind of a heads up if anyone else is going to be gone, and you guys might have a quorum issue because I will not be here and will be out of service.
And that, can I get a reminder on that date, please? Isn't it the 9th, 10th for September?
Mhm.
It's the second Tuesday?
Yeah, it's September 10th.
Yeah, okay. All right, because I leave town the following week, so I'm okay there. So that was the only, that's what I wanted to clear up to make sure we weren't going to have any issues. Anybody else, I don't think? Okay.
That should be good.
All right,
And,
yes, sir.
the only other comment I had is it's fair time, so
Yeah.
make sure everyone gets out to the fair. Went out last night. It's like the kickoff to school, which kind of stinks for some people and it's good for some people, but
Yeah, all
go
the
out-
FFA kids get out of school for a week.
go out to the fair.
Get the
Yeah,
arena
that's,
fair.
that's the bummer, man. I mean, all those kids get to miss. I mean, once they get, but I mean, they have to miss the first week of school to get there with their animals. It's
Every
just
year.
crazy how it overlaps now.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
no, it's good. So I encourage everyone to try to get out there and support our local youth and vendors and all that fun stuff out there. That's all.
Commissioner Sipe?
Just tomorrow is senior day at the fair, so I think that the seniors get in for free tomorrow.
Steve?
She looked at me too, yeah. Hello.
I'm sharing, okay?
She was not, for the record, looking at me.
So that's going to be good. I did enjoy the Connie Mack County and City Night. Enjoyed the games and stuff. Great weather. It was nice and cloudy
Nice and
and cool and nice breeze, so that was nice. I just this week, just quickly, I have the Northwest Mexico Seniors is having public meetings. The one for Aztec will be this coming Monday at 11 o'clock at the Senior Center. So before lunch, we'll have, it's a requirement that we have to meet to have a public meeting. Just get input from the seniors about what they'd like to see at their centers and stuff like that. I do have then a regular board meeting next Wednesday in Lower Valley. And then Thursday I have EDAB, MPO, and I'm not sure what else on that day. But anyway, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just quickly, I went to an ECHO board meeting, I think before the last commission meeting. It's kind of jumbled up, but we are going, ECHO is going through a transition. Their CEO has, I think, officially left as of tomorrow, maybe perhaps today, I forget, 13th or 14th. So we have an interim CEO that is going to be handling things. We have a special board meeting next week, the 21st of August, to kind of, meet as a board and to discuss any transition issues as we move forward with our interim CEO. And then our regular scheduled board meeting is in September, and I will report back any changes or necessary, kind of briefings to the commission and to the folks out there. I do want to take 1 second to share some very sad news. One of our own, Mr. Saavedra, our Community Development Department head's mother, passed away just a couple of days ago. And I know Stephen, you know, personally and professionally, and I know he was extremely close to his mother. She's been battling illness for quite some time, since I've known him, which has been a couple of years. And she succumbed to that just recently. And, you know, as you can imagine, it's hard on him and his family, and he's going to be spending some time down there. So we need to give him the space he needs, but also at the same time be there if he reaches out and needs us. And just know that we care about him, and we're there for him. So it's sad news, but, you know, we're there for him. So that's all I have for tonight, and I appreciate everybody's attendance and your patience, and meeting adjourned. Thank you.